adopted this model that I've provided for free on 2022 ICT mentorship on the YouTube channel. And now that you have that model and you're growing in your understanding with it, I want to provide the community a more practical approach to using the information. When I came up, I had lots of books, a lot of authors and teachers and lecturers that would say, this is how you go into the marketplace and find setups. This is how you go in and you look for patterns to profit. And yes, the books provided a lot of insight. It gave me things to look for, but it didn't really give me a roadmap or blueprint to attack the real root problems that I had, which brought me to trading in the beginning. And that's kind of like what this series is going to open up with. And I'm going to hopefully walk you through a transitional state of mind from thinking like everybody does when they first come into this industry, and hopefully align you properly so that way you'll have the best advantage to use the information I provided in this mentorship this year. This series is ends. All right, so here's an overview real quick. So I know some of you are going to be excited to know where we go, what do we do, what's going to be covered. There's going to be a 4-part series. And the first in the series is obviously this episode here. And we're going to tackle the problem. And the problem is ends need to be met. I want to teach you how to look past the image lifestyle. And that's always been my approach as a mentor. I have seen many people in this industry well before me, and still today, even more so today, they dangle the carrot of affluence, fast cars, luxury lifestyle. And unfortunately, that's what caught me up in the beginning and caused me to stumble. But I want you to understand that the problem of making ends meet, that's not an impossible task. So I want you to understand that problem everybody has. I have ends that must be met every single month too. Maybe not to the degree of stress-inducing ends like most of you in the world, but I had that stuff too. I have children, and this series is aimed at one of my older sons because I want him to have this approach going forward, thinking about how he needs to make his ends meet. Episode 2 is going to be the solution. And the idea is obviously to secure an additional income source. And I'm going to cover how you need to be approaching your life as a business and running your life as a business. And understanding that the task of making ends meet may feel impossible at times. You got to change that state of mind to I'm possible. That means you as the student, you as the operator with this information, you're possible. It's possible for you to succeed. It's possible for you to change the direction of your life. It's possible for that to happen. If you don't believe that, then all the things that you've learned either from me or other people are not going to help you. You have to have that state of mind, that transitional state of mind from understanding there's a problem, there's ends to be met. Then there's a solution I'm going to provide for you. But then you have to understand that that solution is possible for you. Episode 3, the plan. I'm going to teach you how to go in and determine the starting point for you. Everybody's different. Everybody has this content in their hands now, but they're all going to do something differently with it. So what is it that you're going to be doing differently from the next guy or gal? I'm going to cover that in episode 3. But I'm going to teach you how to specifically attack one financial end. One thing that has to be overcome each month for you, because that's the thing that's plaguing you. It's causing you to do things that is derailing your progress. And it's also focusing on casting forth a vision. You have to be able to see where you're going. Where's your objective? Where's your goal? Whatever that is going to be unique for you. Not all of us have the same goals or aspirations, but you have to have something and begin there. And finally, I'll close the series out with episode 4, the process. Making ends meet. Putting it into action. What is it you're specifically going to go into the charts looking for? What's your routine? What's the daily routine, your weekly routine? What do you do when you find an obstacle, when you're met with drawdown? How do you overcome that? So that way you can pursue the goal and overtake it. The problem. In this episode, I want you to think about what it is that you feel pressured about. That means you have to focus in on what is the catalyst that makes your decisions. What causes you to do things? Well, you have bills. So that means you get out of bed, you get prepared for work, and you take your hindsight there and you do what you have to do to get that money. That money, that's your income. Now, whether you have a business or if you're employed, that's your income. That is the only source of money that you have to work with every single month. Now, unless you have additional income streams, that's it. So each month you have ends to meet. In the United States, we have an expression, ends. Ends are bills. Okay, so the expression is, man, I have to make ends meet. I have to make my bills this month. Okay, and most time it is more weeks in the month with bills attached to them than there is weeks with additional surplus income. So when you have that problem, and it's not limited to those individuals in the United States, income is your only working resource. So unless you increase that income, that's the only source to draw from to make ends meet. The living expenses that you have to spend from that income many times are not really well thought out. And then past those living expenses, you have lifestyle. Some individuals in the United States, and probably in other countries too, but in the US, we are the country of excess. And many times we'll have income and then we'll live above our income and try to put on a facade and live a specific lifestyle that really isn't conducive for us to be, well, financially successful. So the lifestyle being placed over top of the living expense is number one problem in the United States. That also is the number one problem in the trading industry, because the lifestyle, that's the image, that's the thing that everyone gets caught up in. You have not seen me do those things. And I do that for a reason, because I want to be practical. I want to be able to sit down with the students or those individuals that want to spend time with me and incline their ear to what it is I'm teaching. I want them to understand that there is a way to do this and not trying to be, well, over the top. Now, can you build wealth in trading? Absolutely. But nobody starts there. And the problem with this industry, educators, mentors, influencers, many times they push the image of wealth right away, real quick. And that is very intoxicating to someone that is in a state of mind that they have to make ends meet. It's more practical for you to understand that that income source has to be increased. And there's all kinds of business opportunities and scams and things that out there that will try to lure your attention and money to do these things to hopefully increase your income. My job is to show you how to do this, and it costs you nothing. It's going to be an investment in time and effort, but this series is a transitional series where it helps you take what you've learned so far in the mentorship and apply it to your real life. Not your social media life where you're pretending to be somebody you're not. If you're doing that, stop. This is your wake-up call for that. This is the reality check. You can waste time pretending to be something that you're not and never really arrive at what you started the whole journey for. What are your ends? This is the part where it's uncomfortable, and you'd be surprised how many people, especially Americans, and my daughter is guilty of this. Okay. So I raised this woman and she still is not very good with managing her finances. And admittedly, dad has to come sometimes to the rescue. I'm not proud of that. It is a work in progress with her, but I'm not exempt from all the things that you as parents, as employees of average Joe or average Jane, those things that you're dealing with, I deal with in other ways, and I've dealt with them too before I became who I am today. But you have to sit down and go through what it is that your life costs each month. That means you have to come up with a budget, figure out what it is that you're having to spend each month. Is there things that you have to reconsider whether you should be paying that every month? Because if you have excess expenses that you really don't need, that is a stress. And those things are going to have an impact on your trading. They're going to make you want to do things that you otherwise wouldn't feel inclined to do or pressured to do because that end isn't there dangling that needs to be met. So you have to do what? You have to write down the things that you have to spend each month and then determine what it is that's really required versus excess. Income to monthly expenses. Obviously, on the left-hand side, this is our income. Whether it comes through a business that you're running, whether it's a successful business or barely profitable, a startup, that income has to be counted, obviously, and or your job or employment income. That's it. That's your working source. So out of that, the ends that have to be met, top of the list most times is mortgage payments for your home or a rent payment. Then transportation. That's usually an automobile or automobiles with insurance and gas premiums. Utilities. What keeps the lights burning in your home? What heats your dwelling place? What cools it down in the summertime? Those are expenses that are going to be static. I have to pay them. Having an affluent income source doesn't exempt me from having utilities. It doesn't exempt me from transportation. In fact, I have a larger transportation expense than the average person because I have lots of vehicles and I own more vehicles than I really technically need, but I'm a car person. So these costs, these are the top three. Everybody's going to have this in some degree. Now, while I don't have a mortgage on properties, I don't have rent on dwelling places, I do have property taxes. They have to be met. So that's an end I have to meet every single year. Or Uncle Sam says, we're going to take the place that you own. If you don't pay the government its rent and taxes, your things don't belong to you anymore. And they seize it, which doesn't really make any sense when you think about it, does it? Ownership is an illusion, folks. So after we get through these top three, then you have the expense, which is really concerning these days, healthcare. It's supposed to be affordable, but it doesn't seem like it's so affordable anymore, does it? And this one recently has become really expensive, and it's probably going to get even more expensive. So right here, this is the majority of where most of your money's probably going. If you are sound about not being excessive in lifestyle. For those of you who are parents, childcare, daycare expenses, diapers, formula, doctor visits, clothing for the child that has to continuously be updated because they're growing. That's an expense. That's very stressful. This specific end is very emotionally driven, and it'll cause you to do things that if you didn't have a child, you wouldn't do. This also many times is the very end that makes the women traders do better than men, because they know they have to make sure their children eat. They have to make sure that the lights are still burning, the heat's still on, and they have food in their bellies. That's what separates the women and men. In my opinion, learning how to be a mentor over the last 30 years, my students have taught me that the women are better in discerning risk because they know that they have that nesting trait about them. You know how it is, gentlemen, if you ever had a spouse or significant other that you impregnated and you're bringing a child into the world, when they get pregnant, they have this amazing transformation where they're nesting. They start doing things, and it drives you nuts and drove me nuts because I was like, why is she doing all these things? Like, she feels like you got to have it done right now. It's 9 months. No. When a woman's pregnant, it's right now, and yesterday was too late. So those impulses for a woman are going to be much more impactful for decision making, and that makes them a better money manager than a man. Clothing, obviously in today's world, everybody wants to wear the finest threads, the newest brands, the high-end luxury tags, all those things. That's an expense. And then finally, this is where everybody messes it up in the youth. They want the entertainment. They want to be the life of the party. They want to stand out amongst everyone in the crowd. And they're going to put more money into that entertainment category every single month. That's why these young guys in trading, they're really not going to do very well, because they're pouring everything into that. The club lifestyle, flash, pomp, image, look at me, all those types of things. It's extremely expensive to do those things. And many times the young guys in this industry waste more money in that entertainment and clothing. Those bottom two categories are the ones that most of the money is being spent on, even if they're profitable. And they are not becoming affluent. They're not becoming wealthy. They're just being a slave to image. And that's why I teach the way I do. I want you to understand that I was a victim of that when I was younger. I spent stupid amounts of money doing those two bottom categories. Didn't own a home, but I had a real nice car, and I took everybody out and I paid for everything, and I could buy anything in a store or buy anything that I wanted. But I didn't think about securing a home and being financially secure and stable, and then having fun doing those other things. So I was the definition of new money. 20 years old, making a stupid amount of money, thinking I knew everything and I could rule the world. These things that we have listed here, you need to figure out what those expenses are for you and trim off the fat, the things that you don't really need. Because if I've bored you so far in this episode, I want you to understand that whether you realize it or not, this list here on the right-hand side, there's something in that list that's causing you to stumble in your learning and in your trading. It's in this list. You have to meet this need, whether it be financially because it's inescapable, like rent or mortgage or property taxes, or transportation costs. Everybody has to get somewhere. How are you getting there? Not everybody owns a car. They still have public transportation. That's an expense. It may not become a very large expense in that capacity, but it's still an expense. So transportation for those individuals who don't have personal vehicles, that falls lower in the category list here, but it's still an expense. You can't escape it, right? Everybody has to get from one place to the next, point A to point B, whether it's for a job, whether it's for entertainment, for groceries. It's something you can't escape. But something in this list is driving you to make irrational decisions as a developing student or trader, impulsively. And for the men, it's usually those two bottom categories. They're throwing things at image when they don't own a home yet without a mortgage. They don't have car notes paid off. They're spending too much on cars, image, and entertainment because they're trying to draw attention to themselves because they're not really there yet. They're faking it until they make it. And that is an extremely huge draw